This is the end of that. Okay. Watch this here. Right. Okay, looks like we have a smooth stream finally. All right. And graphics, ultra high. Let's continue. Okay, welcome everybody. So this is going to be a little bit different type of a review video. So since the HDMI port on my Alienware M18 has died with the RX 7900M, I don't think it's any fault of the 7900M, but rather just one of those things that can happen. So I've been struggling with this laptop to try to get a review out of this particular GPU. And in this video, I've got a lot of talking points here that I'm going to be discussing as we review this. So please be patient. We're going to do this in a different format. It's going to be a live talking review. Sadly, this is going to be the way we review this with this GPU. So maybe it's AMD's poor fortunes. I don't know. First they announced this GPU last fall, or there were rumors last fall that there was going to be a 7900M to compete with the 4090 in mobile GPUs. We got it announced at CES in 2023, and we're finally seeing it almost towards the end of 2023. And it's very much how AMD, it's not that that's how they like to play the game. Unfortunately, their priorities are data center, AI, and their CPUs, which are really their moneymaker. And of course, they're being, a portion of the size of NVIDIA as even a corporation. They cannot do the same thing in terms of product distribution, delivery, and all of that stuff, which is important for bringing an actual product to market. So that said, oh, okay, I'm just going to cross the river here. So that said, I think there's a few things that are at play here. First of all, we've got Intel and NVIDIA basically embedded with the OEMs. That's Asus, that's Lenovo, that's Dell, Alienware, all of these OEMs that actually produce these laptops. And it's very hard to get them to, adopt a new GPU like this, or adopt a new player, because it requires tremendous amount of retooling in the millions of dollars, sometimes even into the hundreds of millions of dollars, R&D into the motherboards, into the layout, the design, the fabrication. So I completely understand that this is a very tough thing to come away with. But at the same token, let me just get the chat up here. The stream looks smooth. We're going to let this play in the background, and let's go over to our chat so we can see. Okay, right. So as I'm saying here, basically, oh, let me see. Have we completed the last mission? Okay, good. We have. So now we need to speak to this guy. But in this video, we're just going to wander around. I just want you guys to see the gameplay here. Unfortunately, in this game, I don't know why. So if we turn any of these things down, let's say to high, and if we hit apply, it's going to force us to restart this game. So I'm not going to bother doing that. We'll stay as we are. And it's just going to be a talking video. So anyway, let me get back to my point here. I don't want to belabor this and bore you guys to death. So that's the big difference why you can't see AMD devices coming to market sooner, particularly their GPUs and in their laptop offerings. I have heard that there will be a offering from Lenovo at some point as well, an AMD Advantage Edition that may offer this, maybe in the 7 Pro, in the AMD version of the 7 Pro. I think they did that last year or last generation with the 6800M, if I remember correctly, or 6850M XT. But we'll have to wait and see. There's nothing here is confirmed, and of course when that happens, when it actually shows up in the market and it's actually available for ordering, is the day that I'll talk about that particular device. As we're getting close to the end of the year, we know that CES is literally right around the corner. We're about month and a half, maybe 2 months out from the actual event happening, and there we'll get the latest announcements, new CPUs, GPU updates, the Super Series from NVIDIA. So it's going to be just a lot more flooding of products into the market. So you're not going to be able to get, you know, manufacturers have no incentive to spend, R&D and research to get AMD Advantage Edition laptops out when they're already ready to move on with the next thing with Intel and with NVIDIA. And because Intel, particularly with CPUs, has their own manufacturing and fab facilities, they can get these things out much, much quicker. And they're literally in bed with the OEMs in the sense that they actually leverage, or they loan their own design teams to help design the manufacturers and the OEMs with the laptops and motherboard and so on. But that's here nor there. Let me get to the point. So what is my take on this RX 7900 XT MXT? Too many R's. We need to simplify this. 7900 MXT. That's what I'm going to call it from now on, or 7900M. Just simplify it further. Okay, so first things first, drivers. Now, when I got this laptop about a few weeks ago, so I installed the drivers, the AMD drivers, which are the AMD Adrenaline Edition. So if I show you now, and I want to show this here because I think it's important for you guys to see this, I still do not have here, as you can see, there is no record or stream tab. And generally with NVIDIA, you get the shadow play stuff. It's built into the GeForce experience, which is annoying because you have to register an account, log into GeForce experience, and then and only then are you allowed to use the shadow play for recording your video, taking screenshots, and so on. Nonetheless, I can do that quite easily. Whoops, I guess I need to switch to a different capture device. Just a moment. Oh, there we go. Yep, now we can see it.
Yes, let us catch our breath.
And let's see, can we fit this to screen, please? There we go. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to do this live, so be patient with me here. And I'll just make sure that we're on top. There we go. Right, okay, so now you guys can see me and hear me. All right, so yeah, this is the Adrenaline Edition software. I've got all of the latest updates here. This is, I think, the November 3rd or 9th or 10th, release of this drivers, but I don't have a streaming tab here, a record and stream tab, which is what you would use to actually record your gameplay. And this is why I wanted to do some pretty interesting stuff with the gameplay benchmarks for some editing. That didn't pan out. And I kid you not, I spent my entire Sunday trying to get this problem resolved. And I wasn't the only one that was having this issue. There's tons of people on Reddit who are complaining about this issue because the AMD drivers are being fed through the Windows Update channels as well as being available from AMD's website. But as soon as you uninstall the drivers from, or if you install the drivers from the AMD website, it clashes somehow. I don't understand how exactly. It clashes somehow with the drivers that are fed through the channels of Windows Update. So the solution in many of the forums and on Reddit was that you uninstall those drivers, you force Windows to turn it off so it doesn't install drivers for you, go into DDU, safe mode, uninstall all the drivers, then install this, and you get a clean version of AMD Adrenaline Edition with the record and stream tab. Well, as you can see, after about a dozen or so combinations of trying various things, I still don't have it. And I have turned off the Windows driver installation, which if you go here, by the way, to... So let me just see, what is this showing? What, it can't show the desktop? Okay, here we go. Right. Too many things to switch through, my goodness. Okay, here we are. Alright, so if I look at this one here, we go into System Settings, and we go into Windows Update. So this is one of the things I wanted to point out. If you go into you go to Advanced Options, there is an option here for drivers. Let me see if I can remember it. No, Windows Update, Advanced Options. Driver updates. I'll have to remember where that is now. But anyway, you can search for it on Reddit. But there is an option here that will disable basically Windows going out to Microsoft, searching, grabbing the drivers and installing them. I haven't updated yet to the 23H2 edition, so I'm still running 22H2 with all of the latest updates, November updates from Microsoft, but this is continuing to be an annoyance for me. So having this software, I've tried gone into updates, I've tried this, uninstalling and reinstalling numerous times. It just doesn't want to add up. And as a result, this has been a very frustrating experience. And now with the HDMI port broken, it's very hard to do capture. And I had to basically tear down half of my setup, hook things up into this laptop in order to be able to do this video. So I appreciate your patience as we do that. So drivers is one thing, but aside from this issue about record and stream and the Windows drivers clashing with the AMD downloaded drivers, if you don't care about recording or streaming using the AMD software, you're going to have no problem. The drivers have been flawless. With all of these games you see here on the screen, I have not had one single issue. Everything seems to run well. Everything seems to run smoothly. And I don't think there's any problem whatsoever with... we'll switch back to the game here with that. So it's been a very smooth gameplay experience. I've not experienced any crashes or, weird texture effects or artifacting in any of these games that I've played and tested extensively on this particular laptop. So that's my one gripe about drivers. And I'm pretty sure that can be resolved as soon as, AMD and Microsoft sort out whatever the heck it is that they're doing with driver delivery. Why do these drivers have to come through Windows? Can we not just have the AMD drivers be sufficient? Can they not suffice? And this is also the complaint I have with the handheld gaming PCs, particularly the Asus ROG Ally. I'll be reviewing that separately coming very soon. But again, multiple paths for, multiple channels rather for driver delivery, which makes it a real pain in the behind for us to understand, hey, which driver should I go and get? And because that is a very specific device, you cannot get the drivers directly from AMD. You gotta wait it out until Asus goes through the cycle, updates the drivers, and then releases a very special version just for that particular device. That's not here nor there. All right, enough with the drivers. I think that's enough to say there. Install the drivers from AMD's website and play, and you'll have a fantastic time. No issues there. Moving on, performance. I think this is the fun part. So here, sadly, when I ordered this device, what's with the lag there? It's not hot. When I ordered this device, we only had available to us on Dell's website in Canada the day it became available, the FHD 480 Hz display for some reason, which paired with a GPU like this is, I don't know, it's absurd. If you're buying this for esports or competitive gaming maybe, and you don't care beyond 1080p, okay, but I think that's a smaller crowd than they'd like to believe. So unfortunately, the 165 Hz 1440p panel was not available. So I had to wait. Sorry guys, this is the call to prayer. Can we do like some meditate or something to pass that? I don't want to talk over it. I don't know. I think we have to sit on a bench first to be able to do it. Just a moment. Is there a bench nearby? Where's a bench when you need one? Yeah, and if you're seeing that it's a little bit stuttery, it's because I literally have everything setting cranked on the ultra high preset beyond ultra high even. So maybe we'll just revert it to defaults and then okay, I cannot find a bench for the life of me right now, so beautifully done though. I read that they hired an actor specifically to do the call to prayer for this game, which is an absolutely fantastic touch. I appreciate that cultural sensitivity and taking the time to be authentic with their... Why are these guys just chilling here? What if they fall off? Very stuttery. Let's see what's going on here. Oof. What's with this? Let's see. Okay, so another thing I want to show you guys here is if we can look at the command center. What? Why is it a white screen? Okay, that one doesn't want to work. So we'll try display capture. Okay, so if we look here at the Alienware command center, it's a mouthful. They need to start shortening these names. So the next thing is to talk about performance, and this definitely comes into play. So this is all connected. Let me talk about this first. The Alienware command center. So in here we've got 5 different profiles, starting with battery, quiet, balance, performance, overdrive, and eventually there's a custom. So actually 6, which is note to Alienware. What were you thinking? Who needs this many profiles? Who even has the time to understand? And if you look at their preset specifications, this is meaningless. Just give us 3: quiet, performance, and custom. Can that not be sufficient? In any case, even if you put it into the custom mode, which I can't do right now because we're actually in a game, so another thing I don't understand, whereas HP software lets me do that on the fly, Lenovo software lets me do that on the fly, and even to some degree when it worked, Acer's Predator Sense software also allows you to do that on the fly. So you can be running a game, hop out, go into the control center software for your particular device and change modes on the fly. No problem whatsoever. In fact, even on the Dell, no, I cannot. Sorry, I shouldn't say that about the Dell. On the Lenovo Lock 15, I can even do that. So this is unacceptable. And when you do finally get to the custom mode on this particular device, there is no option. And I've checked in the BIOS, I've done all the BIOS updates, I've checked around everywhere. There's no option to undervolt that 7945HX, that 16-thread CPU, because as you can see here, it's running hot, and I mean really hot. It's running at 98 degrees here. So let me see. I think what we'll do here, just to demonstrate this while I'm talking through it, we'll just give it a restart. So we're going to default all this crap and just restart. So it's going to go back to high mode. It defaults to that by default. So we'll wait for that to load up, and let me just swap back here. We'll go to the game and let it load up. Okay, and now of course it's going to decide not to capture the game. Oh, there we go. Okay, so here we are. Right, so how can we have a very expensive high-end laptop like this, but we're unable to undervolt the GPU on this device? Also, if you go to the custom mode, let me see here if I can show that now. Yeah, so if we look here at the Alienware software, overdrive mode basically allows you to just look at the thermals. It's spinning these fans at 100% max speed. They're quite loud, but if you look at the GPU is running so good. So why can't we, undervolt the CPU a little bit to have it come down maybe to around 90, or even a TCC offset where we can say, hey, don't go above 90 degrees. I don't really care. I don't need the extra CPU performance. It's not going to help me push any more extra frames to the CPU. So you're not able to undervolt the CPU, the 7945HX, even though it is an unlocked CPU. I've also tried using Ryzen Master. Don't seem to have the ability to undervolt using that as well. Nor can you overclock this GPU. So seeing that it's such a high-end GPU, you want to be able to tinker with it, right? Because what comes from the factory gives you mostly stable settings, but there's always a little bit room in each silicon to be able to tune it further and get the maximum performance out of your GPU. It's the whole point of overclocking your GPU. And because the factory can't sit and test at every single voltage point, they go with a stable version that will work for most, track it up or down a little bit in order to get these things stable, and they ship. So that said, there's always a little bit of room, but from this software, you don't have any ability to do that. I've also checked in the BIOS on this device. There's no way there. Okay, let me just get this game loaded because this music really gets to my ears. All right. Okay, so as I was saying, so we don't have any ability through Alienware Command Center to do undervolt or undervolt the CPU or overclock the GPU. It should be very specific. Undervolt the CPU, overclock the GPU. So we don't have any ability to do that. I haven't tested any third-party software like throttle stop or anything, so don't count on that. But I think with the software that's provided, you should be able to do that easily. And if you look now here, we're getting 101 degrees on that CPU, and that's not an error. So this is actually the temperatures that it's hitting. And look at that, 95, 100 watts for the CPU. Why? What? I should be able to clamp this down to 45 watts. This game doesn't care about the CPU. It works pretty well balanced between the CPU, GPU. It uses both equally, and the wattages are proof of that. If you look, there's a 90 watts being distributed to the CPU, and there's 145-ish watts, but it's bouncing all over the place to the GPU because the thermals are constraining the CPU, and it's throttling back down, which pushes down the frame rate and back up. It's a little bit of a ball game. So the smart functions in this laptop, the smart tuning, and let me show you that here in the Adrenaline software. So if we go here under performance, there's a tuning tab. So if you have both an AMD CPU and an AMD GPU, you get what's called Smart Shift, and that's what you're seeing here. And you have a global profile which allows it to automatically use or look at the load and decide where to push the power. And as you can see here, it's heavily pushing the power towards the CPU. But why? So you can always tune this per game. Just say add game profile, add a profile here, and I'll show you what this does. And this is very, very cool. Come on. What's happening here? There we go. Just sometimes it's tricky. Okay, so it's still trying to push towards the CPU, so we can do his click here manual and bias this all the way towards the GPU, and you should start to see that power level shift over towards the GPU, because that's really what we care about in this game, is to get more power to that GPU to get higher frame rates. We don't really care about CPU power in this particular title. So when we save this you can do on the fly, because this you're doing through the Radeon software. You can also do this by pressing Alt-R to get the overlay, and you can do it through there. But you can see here that for some reason right now it's not respecting this, and I have not had this happen before. I wonder if we need to restart the game to do that. So let me just do this. We'll hop everything back up to the ultra high preset. Ultra high. Ah, yes, we have to turn off this adaptive quality crap. FSR, and we'll do quality mode. Apply. Let's restart. So now if we've biased this towards the GPU, we want maximum power to be pushed towards the GPU. We don't really care about the CPU right now. So let's see what kind of effect we have in this game, if it actually starts to shift the BIOS towards that. And this is the point of performance that I wanted to talk about as well. Performance on this GPU is very, very good, and thermals are very, very good. In a few games, you're able to really get up there 180, 190 watts in overdrive mode. Now, this could also be a symptom that ACC, Alienware Command Center, is maybe stuck in a quiet mode, which is what I had activated before, but I doubt in quiet mode it would push 140 plus watts to that GPU. So that could be a culprit here, which means a restart of the machine, sadly, which is not something that I want to do at this time. But let's hope that's not what it is. We'll try to get back into the game. All that stuttering on the frame time, yeah, we should not have any of that here. So let's see. Another thing we can look at is if you go to the AMD Adrenaline Edition, go to Gaming, Graphics, You now have Hyper RX. So if you enable this, right now I'm running on default. So basically like, native rasterization performance, rendering from the GPU, not adding any of the special sauce that AMD brings to the table. But if you switch over to Hyper RX mode, it will enable some settings down here, which allow it to be able to push even higher frame rates in this game. But again, if we look at this, still getting about 100 watts to that CPU. But if you look at our frame rates, it's pretty decent. Now let's try to enable Hyper RX for this game. And you'll get a flicker. Hopefully the stream didn't die. Let me just make sure. I just want to be sure that the stream didn't die. Excuse me. Okay, so with Hyper RX enabled, in this game there seems to be really no difference. Let's see, can we switch back to the game capture, please? Oh, we are on the game capture. Nope, we're on the display capture. There we go. Apologies for that. Too much stuff to do there. Yes, so some of the capture tools for OBS can also hinder what you get in terms of performance. Let's see, why are we getting stuttery gameplay? I know it's because the CPU is hitting... Yeah, this is... What is the point of this game? Are they trying to disprove what I'm saying here? But basically, the performance on this GPU has been very, very good. At 1080p, as you can imagine, it gets very high frame rates. I've demonstrated that with some benchmarks. For some reason today, after the 1.0.5 update on this laptop, it's running like crap. Look at the frame times. It's all over the place. 50 milliseconds for frame time. What the hell is happening there? Let's try to turn off, actually, FSR2. I wonder if that is the culprit. Go to native. No, the frame times are still kind of all over the place. And we'll go from Hyper RX back to default. Okay, hopefully the Steam is still running. It's always dangerous to do that midstream. Not really sure which operation is going to kill the stream. Maybe a little bit better. So we're getting into the single digits now, but it routinely doubles up to 20 milliseconds. It's a very stuttery gameplay, and if you can see here that CPU is totally unleashed. If we go over to performance in the tuning tab, it's still trying to push way too much wattage to the CPU. So AMD has some work to do there about their smart shift and all their smart access, and AMD CPUs work very well with AMD GPU stuff. I don't think that's the reality here. But what we'll do next perhaps is to run a benchmark of Cyberpunk 2077, because that should be able to demonstrate what I'm talking about. Doesn't sound like nonsense. In the meantime, let me just continue my conversation. So while we're loading that up, give me a moment here. Alright, so while Cyberpunk loads up, the next thing I want to talk about is the performance at the different resolutions. Full HD, QHD, and 4K. I was able to test this laptop hooked up externally to a 1440p display I have at 144 Hz, as well as an external 4K display at 240 Hz. So with those two devices, I was able to get very, very good performance at QHD and 4K. As you can imagine, this GPU only starts... Why is it not capturing our application? Because it's not full screen. Let's full screen this guy. Okay, let's see if we now can get it. Nope, of course not. That would be way too easy. It looks like it doesn't even recognize this game. Story of my life with game capture. Come on. Okay, we'll do it this way then. It doesn't want to behave. It doesn't want to behave. And some reason now my cam is frozen. Hopefully you guys can still hear my audio while I try to get this tweaked. Nothing but problems today. Okay, so as we can see here, yeah, so we're getting pretty good performance here at 1200p. Keep in mind this is the RT Ultra preset, I believe. I'll just check here in a moment. The benchmark is almost over. Let's go back to settings. Oh, it's in ultra mode. Alright, let's see what happens at RT Ultra. Actually, I don't know if I set it to FSR2 or if DLSS turned on by mistake. Let me exit this. 1 second, guys. Yeah, so this is actually great because this demonstrates... Why is my camera frozen? Just a moment. I believe it might be because I have too many things plugged into this laptop and it's just literally not able to handle that much input at the same time. Not too sure, to be honest with you guys. If I look at the CPU here, 16 cores and we're exhausting all 16. That's pretty impressive. And even that iGPU was being active. What is up with that? Alright. Yeah, so this was with FSR2 on auto mode, ray tracing ultra preset. Not a good showing for the... And if you notice, if you go to ultra or any of the non-ray tracing presets, it allows you to toggle Fidelity FX quality mode by default. If you run it in the RT overdrive mode, which is the highest mode in this game, it's going to be a little bit of a slideshow. So I would not recommend that you play in that mode unless you absolutely really want to, you know, torture yourself. But we'll just run one last benchmark here in ultra mode and with the stats turned on so you guys can see what the power levels are. If you look at that CPU there, that's running quite hot, and this is very surprising to me since during all of my benchmarking it never really went above 80 degrees. So I think there may actually be a problem with this laptop. Not just the HDMI port, but perhaps maybe the actual thermal stuff is not coupled properly, or you know, there is not contact. I don't know, maybe even the vapor chamber is loose. It's really hard to say. I was not seeing this issue with the CPU, and if you look, it's only the CPU. So the fact that we're seeing 100 degrees on the CPU here indicates to me that there's some problem with the mounting or the thermal transfer material or whatever on the CPU side, because that GPU is running nice and sweet and cool. But because it's pushing so much wattage to the CPU, the GPU has no room to breathe, and it's not able to hit the benchmark numbers that I wanted to show off. Hello, X himself. Nice name. I like that. Yeah, so basically... Okay. Let's close that out. Right, so you can see here that in ultra mode at 1080p we're able to hit 65, 72 FPS, and if you scale it to higher resolutions, QHD or 4K, it actually doesn't make it doesn't drop the frame rates quite as much as you might think. It actually works pretty well. I've shown that off in additional videos. I'll link those benchmark videos for full HD, QHD, and also for 4K resolution over HDMI to an external monitor in the description of this video after I finish my stream. If I can just get I don't want to go there because then it's going to just start annoying music. Let me see if I can just get my cam to run again. Just give me a moment, guys. Bear with me here. What is the problem here? Come on, cam link. You can handle it. And... Let me try turning my camera on and off again. Let's see if that works. Turn off display capture, game capture. Wow. Just dead. I don't know what's happened there. Why my Camlink 4K just decided to crap out. But as you can see, I think there's definitely something going on with this device beyond just issues with the failed HDMI cable. As you can see here, it's 100 degrees, and this was not happening in this game either. So we'll return back to the menu here, or actually rather we'll just go back to some gameplay. Let's go back to the menu. Sorry, getting a little disoriented here. Okay, so as for performance, you've been commenting on my videos I never saw. Really? I always reply to my comments. Unless you ask for something bizarre, and then I'm just like, sorry, I don't know. I don't have that game. I can't have a specific laptop. Oh yes, contact information. Yes, I have to add some contact information to my channel. I was really waiting to get monetized here, so now I have gotten monetized just the last weekend. So I'll definitely be doing adding some more information, so please stay tuned. I'm just doing a little overhaul right now of the brand and design for the channel. So once everything's settled in, I will have contact information there, and we can get in touch that way. So Unknown says about the m16 with the 4090. Yes, NVIDIA works great. I think this is just perhaps a bad device here, a bad seed in the group. I haven't had any such issues, I can assure you, with any of the laptops I've tested this year. So it still plays fine, but that CPU is really hot, and it's causing not enough power to go to the GPU. And this has literally just started happening tonight. You guys are seeing live this laptop basically destroy itself with 100 degrees on that CPU heat. Okay, but let's move on. You know, this isn't the example I wanted to say. Full HD, QHD, 4K, you're gonna have a great experience with this laptop. If you play on the internal display, I would recommend highly getting the QHD display. Don't get the full HD 480 Hz that I've got here. It's really not worth it, and it doesn't make sense. Why would you spend, you know, to get such a high-end GPU and only have a full HD display? Unless, like I said earlier, you're a competitive gamer, then I totally understand. But again, that's your prerogative. Turn this down a little bit further so you guys can hear me, because this is just too loud in my headphones. Alright, so here we go. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is ray tracing. As you guys just saw from the Ray Tracing Ultra preset and the benchmark in this game, it looks like trash. So some games play a little bit better on this laptop. For example, I tried Doom Eternal. It's a little bit older game, but with that and running with ray tracing, it was a very poor showing. I was getting like 30 frames per second in Doom Eternal, and we know that id Software in Doom Eternal is highly optimized. It really runs very well on most of the laptops here. In fact, I'll see if I can fire it up here to show you guys. I believe I have Steam running. Okay. Or do I not? Just give me a moment here. So we're going to fire up Steam, and I'll show you guys. We'll take a look at Doom. Thanks very much, X himself. Yeah, it's been a very long and hard year. As you can imagine, each laptop review takes, you know, dozens, if not hundreds of hours. And then once you finish all of that stuff, to see that you've got thousands of views, but no monetization, it's not heartbreaking, but it's a little bit challenging testing of your patience, as I can say that. So let's go here, Doom Eternal. This game doesn't like being alt tab out of for some reason. It does not like it. Okay. We'll play here in some ray tracing and show you guys. Yeah, so if you're getting this laptop for ray tracing, I think the short and sweet summary is I don't want to delay this video too long because my camera has given up for some reason. Let me try to unplug and replug it back in. Because the cam link says it's on. Okay, here we go. Alright. There we are. Yeah, so I don't know about you guys, but I'm really enjoying playing this game. It's quite fun actually, and I love the the fast-paced action. It really becomes just an all-out gore fest, which is fantastic. So you can see here, even at Ultra, it doesn't do very well on this GPU for some reason. I do not understand why. Where even on the 4050, I can get some excellent frame rates out of this thing. If you turn on for ray tracing here, it totally tanks. But first, we'll just show off at the native resolution. With Ultra preset, no DLSS because there's no FSR support in this game. So let's just show you here what the frame rates look like. We'll just kind of wander around. Don't even remember where I was. Probably with the Hell Priest. Anyway, so yeah, if you're buying this game for ray tracing, don't. Or sorry, this GPU for ray tracing, don't. AMD is still far behind in terms of the ray tracing performance than where Nvidia is. Even if you buy like a 4080, you're gonna get much better ray tracing performance out of that GPU than you would with any of these AMD GPUs, sadly. I don't know why AMD is still lagging behind. I think they were just hoping or thinking that, oh yeah, it doesn't add up. So we'll just avoid it or skip it until maybe a generation or two next. I really don't know what their thought process was, but that is a reality. So you can see here that if we don't turn on ray tracing, we're actually getting pretty good frame rates, 100 plus. It plays very well. Now as soon as we turn on ray tracing, let's watch our frame rate tank. And the other thing is, to turn on ray tracing, you need some really high VRAM requirements. So definitely 6 gigs is not going to be enough. So 4050 can't really do ray tracing in this game. You need at least a 4060, I would say, and it's showing 80, 70 FPS. So that's like a more than a 30% drop. And it actually doesn't look that good. If you want ray tracing on this game and you want it to look good, you really need to step up to the Ultra Nightmare preset. And if we do that here, then the frame rate really just takes a nosedive. So I'll show that here. Yeah, so just trying to prove my point. And of course, it's not gonna let me do that. What? How is it saying that it's 70 FPS? It's not 70 FPS. Or 90 FPS. Yeah, and I'm starting to see some screen tearing because if you look at that frame rates on that GPU, there's definitely something wrong with this laptop. I've never seen it like this. Yeah, as for the heat here, you guys can see on the GPU, we're now hitting 100C. This was not happening during the benchmark, so something has definitely gone wrong with this laptop. But that GPU is thermally, that GPU is very, very impressive. And if you go down a notch from the overdrive mode into performance mode, you cut down the noise by 5 decibels, which means you can play it much, much better. Yes, good point. VSync. I usually don't turn on VSync because this thing has such a high frame rate. Yeah, vertical sync is off. Are you saying I should turn it on? Or set it to adaptive? Let's try adaptive. I don't know. It looks kind of blurry to me when I play it this way. But it's not the VSync, it's the frame time. The frame times are all over the place and just atrocious. Perhaps we should switch our modes in the Alienware command center. Let's try performance. Oh hey, it let me do it that time. Wow. It's kind of a hit and miss. Okay. Oh, much better. Yeah, but now you can see here we're falling below 60 FPS, and in a fast-paced game like this, you want every single frame per second that you can get. Still a little bit of screen teary and jittery. Let's turn off the ray tracing now. Yeah, if you want ray tracing, you can play it maybe in medium, or if you don't mind, close to like a mid 40s or 50s frame rate. In Cyberpunk particularly, you can play it in ray tracing medium or high mode. Even ray tracing ultra seems to work pretty well. Yeah, I'm stuck at this puzzle here. Not really sure what to do there. But anyway, the point is, ray tracing, don't buy this GPU for ray tracing. We'll move on to the next step, or next point. Fans and thermals, you guys talked about or asked about that. So fan noise and thermals it depends on what mode you're running this thing. Because if we look here at the Alienware command center, with basically performance mode running, we've got all of the fans running at max speed. The GPU stays very, very cool. This is really one very cool customer. I'm impressed with the GPU's thermal performance. The CPU, of course, because you've got 16 cores, 32 threads, and to be honest, that's beyond overkill in a gaming laptop. Even with being able to push such high frame rates, this really should be paired at max with a 12-core CPU. We don't need, nobody, unless you're a very, very specific targeted customer, needs 16 cores and 32 threads in a laptop for performance. You certainly do not need it for gaming. So if you can cut down on the CPU budget here in terms of heat and thermals, it will definitely help reduce your fan noise. You can also, by the way, play in a balanced mode, and the balanced mode will kick down the wattage a little bit. So we'll show that here if it can work with us. So now we're at 70 watts on that GPU. And even at 70 watts, we're hitting 60 FPS at Ultra Nightmare resolution. It's a little stuttery at times. If we turn off the adaptive VSync, or we might want to turn it to triple buffering. Let's try that. I don't know. I don't like to play this game with VSync, but again, your preference may vary. It looks pretty decent, but for the fast motion, I think it looks a bit jittery gameplay there. Anyway, so yeah, for fan noise and thermals, I think that's my recommendation, is to try play in a non-crazy mode. And if you go here to custom mode, which it won't let me do because the game's running right now. So if we jump over to performance mode, you got to be very careful. Yeah, as you can see, my screen just froze. Looks like Alienware Command Center has probably bit the dust. Oh boy, this is such a common occurrence with these control center softwares, and I'm not singling out any one particular OEM. It's pretty much the same for all of these. So stay tuned for that ad coming in. We'll be back in a moment while I try to sort this out. All right, so yeah, as we can see here, we'll jump back over to performance mode, let it do its thing, toggle, go back to the game, and now let's see what is the wattage on our GPU. No, I saw 90 watts. What happened? Why is it dropping down to 38 watts? That's preposterous. All right, enough of this game. Alright, so for fan noise, yes, you can play in a much lower mode. If you're playing something like Cyberpunk, maybe lock it to 60 FPS as a FPS limit, and then play in a balanced mode. That'll really help to reduce your thermals and also your noise, because it'll eventually reduce the wattage that you need on the GPU. Of course, if you want to push every single frame, go into the highest mode, and it's going to be noisy and it's going to be hot. There's no talking about that. I mean, Alienware always runs hot. They're known for that because they push their devices to the max, and if that's what you're after, you're certainly going to get it here. Yeah, it's not a disappointed. It's this particular unit. I mean, I've used lots of Alienwares over the last few years. I had the M15R, what was it, 4? I had the M17. I had the Dell G17. No problem whatsoever. But this one here, this is just a particular model. I had the M18R1 earlier this year with the Intel NVIDIA combo with the 13900HX from Intel CPU and the 4080. Oh, that was a beauty of a machine, particularly with ray tracing performance. It ran just so damn well. There was nothing to complain about. So let's talk about from that Intel versus AMD, because there's a few things there to discuss. The Intel system right now, if you were to look at the price differences between, and let me see if I can pop open a browser for you guys. Just give me a moment here. All right. Yeah, so it looks like maybe a USB port has also died because now the face cam isn't working either. Let me try to switch USB ports. Just oof, don't want to snap that Ethernet port. Let's try it this way. Dongle there. Camera there. All right. Hopefully this USB port is still working. Anything? Please? Oh man. Okay, that's not working. All right, let me see if I can, just give me a moment here. We'll get a browser up and we'll talk about the pricing because that makes a big difference. Okay, so here we go. There we are. So this is the Dell website here. If we jump into the Alienware section, and this is one of the, I guess, the sweet spots about the AMD GPUs, always has been, probably always will be, because they're always late to the party, and NVIDIA just has so much more mind share. So if we look at the AMD spec, and if we look at, so we're going to do just AMD CPU, but we're going to compare 4090 versus the 7900M. If we get the 7900M, you're looking at 2800 US. If you pop over to the 4090, you just went from 2800 to 3500. So that's a $700 difference. And to be honest, if you're not playing, or if you don't care about ray tracing, or if you don't care about NVIDIA versus AMD, you really couldn't be bothered. And you just want a GPU that's going to play games at really high frame rates. Now, mind you, the 4090 tops out at 175 watts. Dell claims that the 7900M can hit 200 watts. I have seen it do that, you know, obviously prior to this instance, because now my GPU has decided to, not the GPU, the CPU or something about this unit is definitely off. Maybe there's some motherboard issues, really can't say. No, I don't think it's a BIOS update. I've done all the BIOS update. I've checked multiple times about any remaining updates in the settings in the BIOS. I've reset the BIOS to defaults, and I've been trying different ports, different HDMI cables. I don't think that's what it is. Even if you were to get, you know, the 4080 model, so that's still, you know, you're talking about 2900. Whoops. Yeah, it kind of pops around everywhere. Let's reset. We'll go to this. What happened? Dell, why do you do this to us? There we go. 2800 for the 7900M as Dell configures it with 32 gigs and a 1 terabyte SSD. If you pop over to the 4080, you're going to still pay $300 more. Is the 4080 worth it? If you're just looking at restoration performance, no. I would say step up to the 4090 or go with the 7900M at this price point and save literally like $700 is a lot. You can buy a bigger SSD, you can buy extra RAM, faster RAM, you can swap out the 4800 for 5600, you're going to have a hell of a time. So now, what about the difference between just an Intel config and 4090? If you go with Intel and get a 4090, you're going to pay even more. It's the highest priced configuration you can get for the Dell or the Alienware M18R1. With a 4090, you're looking at more than $3,300. So actually, I think that's a bit less than the 4090 with the AMD GPU. Yeah, their stuff just really pops around everywhere. So it's $100 more than this one here with the Intel spec. Intel spec is going to be 3300. You've got 3200 for 3299, was it? Okay, so that's basically identical. I don't know what the hell's going on with Dell's website. 3300, and if you get the 4090 with the Intel, it's again 3300 and $4 extra. What is the extra 499 for? Who knows? But it's neck and neck if you get Intel or AMD in terms of CPU. But if you go with the AMD CPU, then you're getting a much better deal with that 7900M GPU versus if you get the AMD CPU with the 4090, you're looking at a big price difference here. And there are Black Friday deals. Yes, there will be definitely some for Dell in Canada and the US. But as to what you get on offer, you're really going to have to, see what's available in the marketplace. Dell usually doesn't do very steep discounts on the M18s, the M18s, the M16s, and the X16 and 17 because those are their flagship models. But you may be able to get a few $100s off through a retailer such as Best Buy, or if you're near a Micro Center, or maybe another third-party PC component shop or retailer, you may be able to get something better there. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is longevity. Well, if I spend $3,500, say on a 4090 or a 7900M, how long is it going to last me? And that's a much tougher question to ask, but it is an important question. 4090 and the 7900M, if they're neck and neck in terms of performance, which they pretty much are, even though the 7900M pushes up to 200 watts, I think it's going to be a better long-term play because of other factors that have nothing to do with the actual FPS or the performance of those GPUs or even the wattages they push. NVIDIA, as I said, just has a larger mind share. They have a larger team. Their drivers are much more polished. Their drivers are released more often. Their software is much more mature. You get all of the creator-friendly features such as NVIDIA Shadow Play. You get their NVIDIA broadcast, and there's lots of other stuff. If you want to be a streamer, 100% forget AMD. Just get an NVIDIA laptop, NVIDIA GPU in your laptop, and you're going to be very happy with it. I've used both. I also have a desktop here with a 4080 that I use for streaming sometimes with an AMD GPU. It's a 7800X 3D, and at some point I guess I'll get around to reviewing that as well. But I've used the 4080 as well as now with the 7900 XTX in my other desktop, and now this is the 7900M that we're looking at. So there is, between the NVIDIA and the AMD, if you're looking to stream, if you're looking to be a creator, if you're looking to do multiple things around multimedia other than just play games, then NVIDIA is a better bet in my opinion. It's much more compatible with software, with editing software, professional software, rendering, whatever. The NVIDIA and the CUDA GPUs are much more usable in that sense. As a result, because NVIDIA has such a larger mindshare, you're going to have better resale value. So let's say in a year's time, 4080 Super is released. You realize that 4080 Super now can push up to 200 watts because that's one of my predictions for next year. We're going to see GPUs and laptops pushing even higher in terms of power budgets. So if we're already at 175 watts with the 4090 and the 4080, next year expect, this is my prediction, expect at CES to start seeing 200 watt GPUs in laptops. And I don't know if they'll do that with the 4080 Super or wait for the 5000 series RTX laptops to show it, but we're going to get there very soon. So that means, are you going to start to see extra performance? Possibly, but that means you're going to be also paying through the nose. There's already rumors about 4080 Super series and the refresh that's coming in January to be more expensive. And I think with this price range, $3,500, we're already hitting literally the top end of the budget for many people's pocketbooks. And if I was going to spend that much money on a laptop, I'd want it to at least be longevity for 3-4 years. Particularly in my case, because I'm always reviewing and I'm always looking at new laptops, I would not spend that much money to own a laptop for any significant period of time, just because I can go through so many and look at so many of them. If you're looking for this as a desktop replacement, which is my next point, let's say you have an old desktop, a few years old, maybe you have a 5700 XT in there, or you have an NVIDIA, 3060, and you really want something that's going to up the game, but now your situation has changed, you're traveling a lot, or you're more in school more often, and you want something, or if you want just something that's lighter, portable, and a little bit better on thermals, because this generation is far superior to even 2 generations ago with gaming laptops. We're getting better thermals, better thermal management. The noise levels can be managed just because the GPUs are much more performant, and you're getting some excellent form factors. Fairly thin and light, under 5 to 6 pounds. You can get a really nice, decently equipped 4080 and say a Legion 7i, or even an HP Omen, for example. So those are some of your options there. But if you're buying this to say, oh, you know what, I don't have a laptop, or sorry, desktop, I don't care about a desktop, I want something that's portable and, you know, to some degree, but I want to be able to basically dock it on my desk, hook it up to an external 4K or a 1440p display and game at really high refresh rates, then you should spend the money on something like this. And here's the caveat. The big caveat is, you know, you want to own this device for 2 to 3 years before you even think about your next purchase. Then I think it's worth it. Other than that, if you're carrying this around on a daily basis, it's a backbreaker, because we've got this laptop at around 9 pounds, I believe, if we look at the weight description from Dell directly. Yes, 9 pounds, almost 9 pounds. And somebody came on my channel and commented a few months back, hey, do you remember this laptop from, you know, a few years ago? I can't remember what it was. I think it was an HP, and that one had a 28 screen and it was around 20 pounds. I said, yeah, that's really something, but I wouldn't be carrying that. I wouldn't really call that a laptop at that point. But 9 points is really pushing it, considering when you add the 330 watt power adapter, which in itself is about another kilo. So you're looking at 9, 10, 11 and a half pounds to carry around with you every day. Doesn't sound like a lot. It's still portable. You can carry it under your arm. But if it's in your backpack with books or in your carry case, you're going to start to feel it after a while. So I would not recommend this laptop if anybody's carrying it on a day-to-day basis. Desktop replacement potential, absolutely. Does it have enough ports? Absolutely. It's got full Ethernet, it's got a full-size SD card, it's got multiple USB Type-C ports, it's got an HDMI 2.1 out port, so lots of potential there to use this as a desktop replacement laptop. Now, the other thing is availability. And availability, I want to particularly talk about the availability of the 7900M XT, this particular GPU. So it was announced, as I said, or there were rumors about this coming last fall, so that's 2022. And finally, at CES, AMD announced they would have this GPU coming. It's going to be their top of the line GPU in the mobile segment, the 7900M. Since January, time has now passed. We're now at the end of November, and as far as I know, this is the only model currently on the market that you can buy with an AMD CPU and an AMD GPU at the high end, at really the top performance of or top of the line performance for mobile gaming. So as you can see here, the big claim with the M18R1, and why I would recommend this laptop if you're going to buy it, if you're going to buy the AMD GPU, the 7900M, is the combined thermal performance and capacity of this laptop. It can actively cool 250 watts. So that means you're going to get 200 watts on the GPU and about 50 watts on the CPU, which is plenty. But again, because you're trying to shove 16 cores into that 50 watts, I think that really doesn't make sense. And one of the things that I really do not like about Dell is you have no option. If I've picked the 7900M, I cannot say, oh, you know what, I don't care about all the extra cores, just give me 12 cores. Nope, you can't have it with 12 cores. Or wait, 8 cores are fine, I'm just going to use it to play some games. Nope, you cannot. You only get one configuration, which is 7900M with the 16 core. So I would love for Dell to be able to give us another option here. Usually Lenovo is better with that in terms of allowing you different options to configure your device in terms of CPU selection, GPU selection, and combining them. Dell, for some reason, decides to pair these two together. Must be profit margins or something. Not really too sure. AMD advantage equals no availability. Thanks, Moses. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. They announced this in January. It's now at the end of November. We have one singular laptop to show off this particular GPU. So another reason why I would say, I would love to recommend AMD. I'm a big, not a fan, I'm a big proponent for the underdog. But at the rate that they're going, I think this just doesn't cut it for the consumer. Nobody's going to wait around 9 or 10 months to buy a laptop just to be a fanboy, only to realize, oh crap, there's something better available on the marketplace. For example, when the 4090 laptops got announced, literally in January, by mid-February, people had, and including myself, I had the Strix G18 in my hands to review towards the end of February. And that was the first video that went up on my channel in early March. So if you talk about the availability, because Intel has access to their own fabs, they can make their CPUs at turn neck or cutthroat, whatever, very fast speeds, and get them into the marketplace. They automatically win that race. And this year, the AMD CPU versus the Intel GPU has been closer than ever. So either one you buy, you're not going to lose out on anything. But by locking this GPU choice to the highest end spec of the Ryzen 7945HX for AMD, I don't think they're doing any favors, because somebody might not want 16 cores. Somebody is sufficient with 8 cores just for gaming. How about some of the other configurations? So this is not a point against AMD or the 7900 MXT GPU, but rather against Dell. So please, if Dell is listening, maybe somebody from Dell is listening, or somebody has the ability to get them, a word about this. Give us the ability to properly configure this stuff. Why are you giving us options and then limiting them by your own ridiculous choices that don't make any sense? So that's what I have to say about the desktop replacement potential, the longevity, and the availability. Oh, one more point about longevity. Let's say you do commit to buying this laptop. You love everything about it, the size, the screen, everything. You go and buy this laptop. What is to say that AMD is going to support this GPU, for years to come? What if it becomes another one of those? We tried something in a market segment, it was fantastic, and this has happened, by the way, historically speaking, to the Vega 56 and Vega 64. They're dinosaurs now. Nobody even cares or remembers those GPUs, and there's a real chance, a real risk of that happening. And if you were try to pawn those off in the used market to say, let's say I want to upgrade, I'm going to try to sell this in the used market, you're going to get very, very low resale value for those. So it's going to be another situation, I believe, here with the 7900M, unless they're able to pull out some rabbit out of their hat and really get manufacturers on board, or they're able to really deliver some level of performance which really blows everything else out of the water just by software tuning and software optimization. Because to be honest, when you get to that high end, that 25 watts between 175 to 200 isn't really going to net you all that much performance. You might, if you're lucky, be able to get an extra, say, 10 watts out of it. But is that worth, 10% more performance out of it? But is that really worth it? You have to be the judge of that. And let me see if I can fire up Starfield here. I like this game. And it's a showcase for FSR2, so we'll talk about FSR2 performance, some of the upscaling tech as well. Sorry this is a little bit long, but I'm really trying to cover a lot of different things here. So hopefully you guys can bear with me. I think this laptop is dying here, so I'm trying to do my best to get this coverage out. It looks like now, yeah, I think this port is also dead. Oh man, my camera's not even coming through now. Hopefully you guys are not hearing any static. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think something is definitely busted here, because that GPU, that CPU is constantly at 100 watts or 100 degrees Celsius. No matter if I'm at 40, 80, 90 watts, whatever is being pushed to it, it's just really not having a good day here. Let me see if I can get this to capture the game. Hello? Oh, there we go. Okay, now you guys should be able to see. Alright, so we'll kind of roam around in Starfield while we talk about this stuff. So yes, the other thing I want to mention is if you're looking to buy into the AMD ecosystem, I think you would be much better off on the desktop front, because those GPUs were going to last much longer. I think there's some static here, but if you look at those frame times, this is atrocious. So something is definitely not playing fair with this laptop. And if you can see here, it's just dumping all that power into the CPU. So perhaps it is a software bug. I really don't know. But the fact that my HDMI port is dead, I can assure you that that's hardware. If I go to performance here, go to tuning, you guys can go here and set up a specific profile for your game. So let's add one for Starfield and see if we can get it to respect our decision here. GPU, please. We don't want CPU power. And it seems like it just doesn't care. So, yeah, I don't know why it's dying. I don't know. I really don't know without really tearing this device apart. Because I was not having these problems as I was benchmarking or playing on this device over the last 2-3 weeks. It was running so well. I was so excited to cover the review for you guys. And then the HDMI port died, so I couldn't actually feed this through my desktop to get you a proper review with multiple camera angles and all that stuff. And then I resorted to saying, okay, well, let me see if I can get stuff input into this laptop. And I'm now hearing static on this game. Are you guys hearing the static as well? It's... Why is there static? Yes, there is static in the audio. That's new. And 24 frames per second? You gotta be kidding me. Wow, 30 FPS at 1080? That is just not possible. I don't care how heavy or how demanding this game is. 30 FPS at 1080p with a 200 watt GPU, none of this is adding up. So definitely something has gone wrong here. What I will do is I'll uninstall all the drivers, reinstall everything in safe mode, and then I'll report back again if I'm able to get any improvement on this. But as of right now, this was not the review I had intended to show for the 7900M. And I guess there's no XT, so I'll have to correct that in the title as well. But I think this is all really I have to say about this GPU. It is an exceptional GPU, but something here looks like on the CPU front has just taken a nosedive. So we're getting this very, very poor performance, even though we're seeing very high clock rates on that CPU. I think it's something thermally. It sounds to me like, or I would guess that there is no contact between the CPU and the actual vapor chamber. But tearing these things apart and checking that is very, very invasive. So I don't think I'll be doing that. I'll rather return this laptop because this is just unacceptable. I don't want to take a loss on this trying to resell it after the fact. But yes, so drivers, you know, gameplay, no problem. For other stuff such as recording and streaming, you know, it can be an issue because of Windows trying to fight and push its own drivers through the Microsoft update channels. Performance, very good. FHD, QHD, and 4K, particularly hooked up to an external display, it really can hit that 200 watt figure. And I've seen it in a few games, not many, a few games. So Borderlands 3 is an example. For some reason, that thing just eats up the GPU, even though it's a much older game. You'll also see it in Red Dead Redemption 2, which is also very GPU heavy. Other than that, ray tracing performance, don't buy this for ray tracing. That's the short and sweet of it. Yeah, I'll let the laptop have a good night's sleep. It'll definitely get its rest, don't you worry. And then fan noise and thermals, it can be managed depending on what your expectations are and what levels of performance you want to play at. If you're happy locking it to 60 FPS or limiting your game to 60 FPS and you're comfortable playing at that level, you can tone down quite a bit the thermals and the noise level from this laptop by putting it into a lower power state. You don't need 200 watts to push 60 FPS in many games with this laptop. That includes many modern games as well. So that said, this can be a desktop replacement potential. You know, it certainly has the potential to do that, but that will depend on what is your use case, and only you can be the judge of that. Longevity, I don't believe that this laptop GPU is going to last very long. Unfortunately, the AMD 7600M also, which came out earlier this year, a little bit lower down the stack, competes more with the 4060 for laptop GPUs. There's only, in my understanding and to my knowledge, only maybe 2 or 3. There's an Asus TUF F16, I believe. There is, which is an AMD Advantage Edition AMD CPU, and a 7600M, and I believe there's one offered from Lenovo, and maybe one other that I'm not remembering right now. But that's not very good for longevity and availability. You have very few options in the AMD mobile GPU space, and that just pushes everybody towards NVIDIA, sadly. And it's not like NVIDIA is a bad option. 4050 rather, all the way up through 4090. I've shown this year multiple times that with DLSS 3 and particularly frame generation where it's available, you're getting some excellent gameplay experiences. But depending on the laptop, you may be able to get that to an even better experience by controlling the thermals and the fan noise. So particularly the Legion 9i, I was very impressed with, even though that's a very expensive laptop. The other laptop that impressed me, not as large a degree as I would have expected, is the Gigabyte Aorus 17X. With a 4080 It's a 17.3-inch screen, which is in between the 16-inch and the 18-inch screen, but performance was very good on that laptop. CPU, thermal management, heat, noise really impressed me early on in the year. The only issue with that was that the Gigabyte Control Center, for many commenters on my channel, have been complaining that certain features don't work, you can't install, it doesn't run, it doesn't open. I don't know what the overall percentage of those people are, but that is something to be aware of when you're buying into the Gigabyte. Gigabyte. Also, they're a much smaller OEM manufacturer of laptops than even MSI or HP or Dell even. So that said, with the 4050 up to the 4090, turn on DLSS, and it's literally wow. It's literally like black magic. And if your display has NSYNC or G-Sync support, which many of the laptops now beyond 4060 and up seem to be supporting, whether they mention it or not, it's a very nice gameplay experience. The other one that I really liked was the m18, but I think the shape and look and feel and the overall aesthetics of that last laptop are a little bit dated. So I would love for HP to do a refresh on that laptop, because it ran very well with the 4090, amazing performance. And I was testing that when Hogwarts Legacy had just released, and sadly that game was a mess. So ray tracing wasn't such as fun to play on there, but now that that game's gone through numerous patches, it is a much more fun experience with turning on DLSS, frame generation, and ray tracing. It's a visual treat. That said, I've also looked at the mini LED screen on the Acer Predator Helios 18. I like that laptop as well. The screen was excellent, but again, Acer, please overwork your software or rework your software. Give us the ability to control undervolting, overclocking the CPU and the GPU from within the software. Sometimes the software didn't load, or if I went out of a game and switched modes, sometimes the mode wouldn't switch. Even when I booted up, sometimes the mode would be locked in a prior state. So there's definitely some issues there, growing pains with the software. And the noise, the fan noise on the Acers, oh my god, it's atrocious. I don't know how anybody can sit there and listen to those jet engines. I was going earblind after half an hour of listening to that, to the point where I had to start putting in noise canceling earphones when I was testing the game or benchmarking that particular laptop. It was just not tolerable. But if, again, that's the highest performance mode. If you play on a balanced mode, every laptop in 2023 so far has a respectable 40 to 48 decibels in terms of thermal fan noise, and depending on what environment you're in, that may be acceptable. On the 4090 with the m18, for example, I was able to play in a quiet mode, which pushed about 80 watts to the 4090, and playing in Hogwarts Legacy, I was getting near 60 FPS with DLSS and frame generation turned on. Not with ray tracing, of course, obviously, but that was a very good experience as well. So lots of different options. If you do buy this one, you do get to save a few $100 versus a 4090, even paired with the same CPU. So that's ultimately going to be up to you. Do you want an AMD CPU and GPU combination? I think that smart access, smart GPU, smart memory, all the smart power shift technology that AMD keeps raving about still needs some tuning and work. It's not quite there yet. We still have to see FSR 3. Thus far, there is a preview for that. And also particularly for their version of frame generation, which is called the AMD something black frame. I'm missing the acronym now, but that one particularly is only currently available for desktop AMD GPUs. I don't know how they made that decision. I hope at some point that also comes to the mobile GPUs, but there's little things like that that ultimately make the buying decision for an AMD GPU a much tougher sell. And of course, if you combine it with the availability, the longevity, still some driver pains in terms of getting Windows to not fight you on it. But overall, the performance is definitely there. It does shift 200 watts to that GPU in this laptop. I've seen it happen. But that's, I think, all I have to say about this laptop. It's unfortunate that I ended up with a bad unit here. I've got so much other stuff to go through, so I can't actually spend the time further on this laptop. But if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments on this video, and I'll try to answer them as quickly as I can and as completely as I can. Yeah, this has not been a good year for AMD. They touted 250 AMD laptop models at the beginning of the year at CES. I don't think we were even 10% of that. There's probably just a few 7600M and 7900M laptops, and I'm not even talking AMD Advantage here. I'm just talking overall AMD. You can get AMD GPUs, or sorry, CPUs on more laptops than before. Yes, I will give them that. Thanks for that option. But again, often they're paired with odd choices or, odd models. So I don't know where their claims for 250 came from, but it certainly did not pan out this year. I hope it's a better story for AMD. I really do, because the more competition we get, I think it's going to be better for us as consumers. But I think 2024, I'm going to have a video coming soon. It's going to be a talking head video, but I'll try to keep it very brief. My predictions for 2024 and laptops, and particularly gaming laptops in general, as I am a gaming laptop and laptop life focused channel. There's going to be some interesting stuff I have to say there about what's coming in 2024 for gaming laptops. It's going to be a good year for gaming laptops. 2023 was great. 2024 is just going to put some icing on the cake, I think. So stay tuned for that. Please subscribe to my channel. I just got monetized recently, so thanks everybody for pushing me there, and thanks for all your support and comments. I really do appreciate the community, and I hope to be here long term. So thanks very much for that. Help spread the word. Get subscribed, turn on your notifications, particularly when I'm doing lives. I'll be doing more lives in the future, and hopefully better lives. So thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks everybody for commenting tonight. It's been a really lively stream. I've really enjoyed my time here. Hope you guys learned something. Hope you guys found something. I hope you found something that it didn't make you so happy. So leave me a comment below what you enjoyed, and if you think that I should be doing something particularly differently or run my streams differently, particularly when I do laptop coverage, thermal testings, or reviews like this, kind of in-depth deep dives, and if you appreciate them. So thanks very much, and have a good night. We'll see you in the next video.